Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Tuesday. It's Music Tuesday. The crowd is celebrating. The trees are extra green. The flowers are more beautiful because Brian Red is here.
Thank you, John.
Good evening.
Thank you. If all of that was true, that would be really cool.
Well, it's always true, man. It's like always. It's always that way in Wisconsin, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, now it is.
Yeah, he says as he cringes and shakes his head.
It's burning up out there in the high 40s. So,
and we're enjoying those 40s.
yes.
We are back again, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us tonight. We're going to be talking music as we do on Tuesday night. We're going to get our chat rooms organized here and get links shared because we are doing this on YouTube and on Facebook tonight.
Right, I forgot all about that. I should get some chat room action going here.
Yeah, we're going to get that. I'm just going to scroll down and I will pop that link over to you here in just a second, Brian. Once it, I will pop that link on to you here in just a second, Brian. Once it, I will pop that link on to you here in just a second. You guys are going to hear 3 different versions of that because it popped up, but it didn't give me the ability to turn that sound off on that video.
I love it when John does things like that.
Sound off on that video. Okay, the sound is off, but
the sound is off where?
Well, see, I've got to shut the sound off on the video, which means I've got the video on Facebook, and it doesn't show me the little speaker that you could usually click to shut it off. So it's like, I don't know if so I just clicked in that general area, and then it happened that it worked to shut the sound off. So if you are watching on Facebook, the link is on its way to you there, Brian. If you're watching on Facebook, you guys can watch it there. I'm going to try to watch the chat. It's not guaranteed that I'm going to actually see the chat there the whole night. We follow the YouTube chat much more, so just bounce over there and ask your questions there and go from there. Ask your questions there and.
Oh yeah, this is getting fun. We're all kinds of goofed up here. I'm going to share this link so people can watch it.
We've got back and forth. Ladies and gentlemen, this is live TV or live internet web show going on right here, right now.
We don't have like engineers and stuff who can help us with this.
Yeah, no, this is called we don't. We're kind of like iCarly, except we don't have the Freddy character. Was it Freddy? I had kids at that age, so that's why we got to watch that in the house and such. So yeah, what you're hearing now is a remix of Thanks Ian, and he's like, yeah, we're remixers.
Awesome.
Oh, okay, cool. Okay, tonight's agenda, gang. We are up and ready. We're going to be talking Madonna. We're going to go through some things with Madonna's life and some of the music and such, and things that we should know, things that still work, things that were hot then, whatever. But we're going to talk Madonna for the next half hour in this artist spotlight this week. Then in the second half hour, we're going to take a little break, switch over to different video players. Links are in the descriptions. And then we're going to do some questions. We got some questions that were sent in after our industry chat last week. So we have some new questions. And Brian, I'm going to throw these questions at you in fast and furious action, and you can answer them as we go.
I don't know what the questions are. John sent me a list, and I told him, I said, I don't even want to read it.
Yeah, he said,
you throw hand grenades at me.
And so now we're going to go. And if all of a sudden he gets that blank, that wide-eyed, he wasn't prepared. He's like, what the hell? What are you talking about? I don't know what you're talking about.
Figure it out.
So let's start off. Madonna. Madonna, of course, is a huge influence for a lot of our music in the over that 80s time frame.
Yeah. Big influence, actually, for 80s club life. Big influence for 80s fashion. Interesting artist. Just an interesting artist. And I am a big fan of Madonna through the 80s and the first couple years of the 90s. After that, it's touch and go for me. And it was touch and go for my dance floor as well. But there's some great stuff that I think everybody should know about that happened in that magical, 9-year time frame that I romanticize when it comes to Madonna stuff.
So it looks like she had 13 albums, if I've got this correct, ranging from 1983 with her self-titled album Madonna, all the way up through Rebel Heart, which was released last year.
Kind of. And the reason I say that is because there are other projects that she did, which I will get into as we go through this. Yeah, there's more. There's more than that. There's more stuff than that people kind of forgot about.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, let's start at the beginning. Madonna's history. She's let's see, she's 10 years older. She must be 57, 58 right now, somewhere in that ballpark.
Now, I'll say this before we even get started. Madonna's the last of the 80 58s. There were 3 of them.
Explain that, please.
Okay. 1980s, there were 3 superstars that were born in the summer of 1958. Prince was the first one. He was born in June of 58.
Mm-hmm.
Madonna was the second one. She was born in early August of 58, and Michael Jackson was the third one, born in late August of 58. So they were all within months or sometimes weeks of each other as far as how old they were, and they were the superstars, undisputed superstars of the 80s. And there's only one left. She's the only one left.
Interesting. I didn't realize they were. I guess you knew Prince's age because of but I didn't realize Michael was in that same. I was actually watching. We're in a tangent here a little bit. You're talking Michael Jackson, and somebody was kind of doing a comparison between Prince's genius and Michael Jackson's genius, and they were kind of talking in the video back and forth, showing some performance clips from the two of them, and it's interesting and it's entertaining to watch the two of them perform completely different styles. But yet they both were able to grab an audience and just hold an audience right here.
They did it different. I mean, but the interesting thing about the 80s 58s, as I call them, otherworldly. I mean, Madonna is probably the most down-to-earth one of all of them, but kind of untouchable, larger-than-life celebrities, more so than anybody in my lifetime that I can think of. And they're all from the Midwest. So Madonna's Michigan, Michael Jackson's Gary, Indiana, and of course Prince's Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Yeah,
Bay City, Michigan is where Madonna's from, kind of up north there.
Interesting.
They're all kind of from the same, general area of the United States too. So a lot of parallels there, and they all knew each other. I think Prince and Madonna probably got on better than the other ones did. They actually did some work together. We'll talk about that a little later on. So yeah, let's do this thing.
Yeah, let's jump into it. She moved from India. No, not Indiana. She was in Michigan. Moved from Michigan. Oh, she went out to New York in 1977. Signed to a label in 82. First album comes out self-titled in 1983.
Now here, let's just do a little backstory on this. When she went to New York, she had nothing. She had a couple bucks in her pocket. It's a typical story that you hear. She was actually squatting. I mean, she couldn't even afford an apartment. She was squatting. And she also joined a band. And they had a rehearsal space. It wasn't a recording studio. It was just a rehearsal space. You could rent it by the month. Where she was squatting, they turned off the water and power. So she had to move into the band rehearsal area. She lived there for 4 years in the band rehearsal area. And like, there was no shower or anything. It was just a bathroom. You remember when you were in school? I don't know, some of you kids might know what I'm talking about. You older folks like us probably do. And maybe there's still some of this around. You know those faucets you had to turn and hold for the water to go? And if it turned off? Yeah, that's what they had. That's what she bathed in every day for 5 years. That was her way of doing it. She did dancing. She did nude modeling, whatever she could do to kind of get a couple bucks. But yeah, and her band, by the way, do you know anything about her band?
No, go ahead, please.
Okay, her band was called the Breakfast Club, and she started out as the drummer of the band, and then she eventually made her way to the front of the band. Now, when she got signed by the guy at Sire Warner, they just signed her. They didn't sign the band, and she wanted to do her own thing. But the Breakfast Club did realize some success, and I believe it was 85 or 86. They had a single called Right on Track, and it's one of my favorite tunes from the 80s. Do you know that song?
No, I don't.
Okay, look it up. When you hear it, you go, oh yeah, that. The Breakfast Club, Right on Track. It's a beautiful song. I actually have it back here somewhere. I was going to grab it, but I forgot. Only single I'm aware of that did anything for Breakfast Club, but that's Madonna's old band, and she used to date the guy who's like the lead singer of the band. But Madonna dated everybody, so that's not even relevant. I personally know like 3 people who've had relations with Madonna, and I'm like a mobile DJ in Milwaukee, so that means that it doesn't really mean anything that she did anybody, that she dated everyone.
There's a track record there.
There's a track record there. So, but anyway, that's the backstory of it. When she got an agent, she went into a small hotel, better than the recording studio. After, then when she got signed, she moved into like Alphabet City, and she was there for a long time, which is Lower East Side. Like, oh boy, that's where like the Jewish markets are and stuff. They call it Alphabet City in New York because it's avenues A, B, C, D. So they call it's Lower East Side Alphabet City.
Sure.
And kind of a seedy area back then. It's trendy now, of course. Everything's trendy there now.
Yeah.
But, yeah, and then when she signed, okay, they did a single, and the single was called Everybody. That was the first single, and it realized a lot of club play, and since the single did well, they went ahead and did the whole album.
And the album became her self-titled one. Yep, the self-titled.
Yeah, and in Europe, this is actually the European copy of it. I have it here. They should call it Madonna the First album.
Madonna the First.
Yeah.
It's still in pretty good shape.
Well, yeah, I bought this in Frankfurt, Germany. It's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
When I was over there for Messe one time, I can't. My American copy of this, which is like the best album cover, in the back. I love her picture on the front and back. It's in storage, but this is the one that they got in Europe.
Nice.
So, anywho, a little trivia there for you.
Yeah. And
then the producers on that album, they brought in some producers, and she didn't really like what they did. So somebody else she was dating, surprise, Jelly Bean Benitez, they brought him in to remix some of the stuff. And he actually did write and produce Holiday, which was her first single off the album.
And that one, I think, was released, I think my notes say September of 83.
So really, September, huh?
Yep, Holiday. Yep.
All right. Now here's something about Holiday. That is the Madonna song that I still play the most. And there have been several remixes. Shep Pettibone did a remix in like 90 or 91 or something like that off the Immaculate Collection album. The original version, which I think is over 6 minutes long, on the first album, is still the version that I play. So first single, or I guess first single after the album was released, Everybody was the first single. It's still the one I play the most.
Yeah, that I would say that Holiday definitely. Although I have to say, because there were the few on that, probably Borderline it was more of a personal favorite.
Me too. I went nuts over Borderline. That was the first Madonna song that grabbed me.
Yep.
Was Borderline. And then I went back and said, yeah, I remember Holiday. That was a pretty good song.
Mm-hmm.
And Lucky Star, I love that track.
Yeah, it was.
I love that track. And she was fun to look at, and she was, I don't know how to describe her. It was really odd. She was like thrift store, young and trashy, but still kind of hot, and I like that. I thought that was really neat. Fashion, and she says that, I didn't really create that fashion. Everybody downtown was doing that back then. I was just doing what everybody else was doing. But they credit me for it because I'm the first one they saw do it.
Yeah, exactly. Outside of that district or that area.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the bustier and the rag in the hair, and it's cool stuff.
Oh yeah, for sure.
The jelly bracelets and spiky stuff.
And how that affected, high school girls from, 1983, 84 until about 88, somewhere in that ballpark.
Yeah, and then it went into some other thing, but yeah, it was influence. She's always been a style icon like that. The other track that I want to talk about off the record, though, not off the record, but off of the album.
Yes,
not off the record. Turn the camera off. Is Burning Up. That was a club hit, and I don't know that it did anything as a single. I don't know that it was on anybody's radar on the radio or whatever, but Burning Up was a club hit. So
just thinking, I don't think that I don't. Oh, it did hit the charts. It hit this number 7.
Did it? Okay, good. Yeah, but it was huge on the club charts. Big club hit.
No, excuse me. No, that didn't. I'm reading it wrong. I'm looking at the wrong chart. It did not. It did not hit the charts, but it did. It hit. It was club hits in France, Germany, and Australia. So
that makes sense. Yeah, club hit, like I said.
Yeah, it did.
Not a mainstream hit, but club hit.
No, it was in a dance club. It hit number 3 in dance clubs in their charts. So, yeah, that was a good song also. But I don't think I heard that one until I want to say somebody like Ultimix or someone did a remix.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
It was years later. I mean, it was probably in the late '90s when that actually came onto my personal radar.
Now, the first video that I remember seeing, if I go back and look, is Everybody, which was the single. And it was just her on stage dancing. And then the next video I remember seeing, is Borderline. But there is a video for Burning Up. And I think it was probably shot in between Everybody and Borderline because it's real low budget. It's kind of fun because Borderline's got a budget. I mean, they're spending money on that video. And Lucky Star is not as polished, but I don't think there's like a legitimate like video for Holiday. They never did one. But the Burning Up video is pretty fun if you ever get a chance to check it out. YouTube it or whatever.
I have to check that out.
It's funny. It's like cheesy old MTV 3 o'clock in the morning video stuff. It's really cool.
The 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. Or Night Flight or whatever. Just the weird stuff that, the mainstream audience doesn't watch. It's pretty cool.
Or in our day, it was Friday night videos. We would stay up to watch that. Because, that was the only way we could see music videos.
Right.
Okay, so moving on, we continue. Now after the first album, the following year she releases her second album, which introduced her in a negative way, in many ways, to many people with the album Like a Virgin.
The critical acclaim on that album was very mixed at best, and I've read things about it where they say, well, it's not much of a departure from her first album. Well, hold on a minute. I had never heard anything like a Virgin before. Never in my life. That was a new sound. And there aren't many times that's happened in my life. If I turn on the radio right now and I'm listening to like mainstream, like Kiss FM stuff, every song I hear, I can tell you that it sounds like every song that I've been listening to for the past 20 years.
Yep, there's similarities.
It grabs me. There are a couple that just grab me. And in my lifetime, Little Red Corvette, Hungry Like the Wolf, Do You Really Want to Hurt Me Culture Club, Madonna's Like a Virgin. Holy, whoa. Eurythmic Sweet Dreams Are Made of This. I mean, it's that kind of stuff where you hear it, it's like, I've never heard this before.
Yeah.
It's something that's rehashed from something else. And the interesting thing is the producer on that album, the producers, I should say, were Nile Rodgers and Bernard Edwards. If you don't know who they are, they're the guys who were in the band Chic, Good Times, Freak, La Freak, all of that stuff. And they produced David Bowie's Let's Dance. They produced, I think, Duran Duran's Seven and the Ragged Tiger. But they also did things like, Sister Sledge and Pointer Sister stuff. So they were more of an R&B act. But they did some amazing work with Madonna. And it didn't sound like anything else they had ever done. And they did actually play on the album, too. And the drummer in Chic got involved with that one, too. So it was pretty much Chic.
Chic with the Madonna
Chic album with Madonna singing, but the music was stuff that we'd never heard before. Fantastic album.
Yeah.
Angel, the song Angel, which wasn't a huge hit. I've never heard a song like Angel. I've never heard a song like Dress You Up. It didn't sound anything to me like their first album.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, definitely a variety of styles and a variety of sounds in that, because really, the songs that were released that hit charts at some level, nothing sounds like the other. Whereas many artists today, I mean, you hear one of the any of the popular boy bands, and they sound, the whole album sounds the same, except one's slower, one's faster.
Right. Now, back in the old days, too, what made it interesting, and you can go through the Prince discography from the 80s, starting in the early 80s and on through the end of the decade. The technology they were using, what was so cool about that music is, and what we missed, I think, in music today, is that they had all of these new sounds and technology to play with. So for years, it was your standard instruments, and then you could get some effects on it, and then they had some cheesy synths you could throw over the top of it, but organ, piano, guitar, bass, drums, strings, horns, those were your sounds. And then when you came into this stuff, you had things like the Lindrum and the Oberheim synthesizers and drum machines and the Roland 808s and the 909s and all of that techie stuff. Didn't sound like anything else. It's like, this is a brand new sound. I've never heard this before. And these just amazing producers would just play with them. Hey, we're going to use this new toy I have to make your song. It may not have been what you had in mind, but this is what we have and we're going to do it. And so you get like years or, pockets of years where it's like, yeah, nothing sounds like this, because the next year the 808 was replaced by the 909 and then it sounded different. And then the samples that they used, even if they used any samples, they were 8-bit. If you know anything about bit, I mean, think about our MP3s. They're like, 320K. 8-bit is nothing. It's like Atari. It's stupid. Like 2600,
Yep.
So really raw, and they didn't sound real, and you didn't think they were real. You weren't trying to fool anybody, but it was just a sound, it was cool. So they were unique in that way, in that regard. And then you put that, and then you take this, production value, which isn't overproduced, but it's just well tastefully produced, and you get some amazing stuff. Those first 2 Madonna albums are magical. Just
very
magical.
much so. Very much so. And
A lot
then,
of singles on there.
and then not that there was a change, and
well, it wasn't a bad change at first. I don't believe it was just a little different. Again, she used Jelly Bean Benitez to do most of her mixing and a little bit of production on their first album, Holiday. He wrote, produced, and arranged. Now Rogers and Bernard Edwards were the primary producers on Like a Virgin. By the time, and there's another one in there too that Jelly Bean produced that we need to mention, that still to this day, it's cool when you can get away with playing it. It's been a while, but I need to work it back into my playlist. Like I said, what'd you say, 13 studio albums or something like that?
Yeah.
There was more stuff. One of the things that was there were like soundtrack songs. She'd do a song for a movie.
Yeah, for sure.
She did a song for the movie Vision Quest, if you remember that movie.
I don't think I saw that.
It was bad. I think the other song on there was like Lunatic Fringe. Terrible pacing. The director must have been from the 70s, because 70s is like the worst movie pacing in the world. Bad pacing, kind of. It was about an athlete or something, and who cares what happened to him? But
you're so nice.
I don't. Well, in the movie, not the actor, the fictional character. I don't care about him. And I watched it a while back, and I was like, "Oh my god, this is terrible." The only redeeming part of the movie was they played Lunatic Fringe, and then they played Crazy for You, because she wrote that song for the movie, and she appears in the movie. She's on stage singing Crazy for You. And that also came out in 1984. And they were really worried, oh man, we can't release this single that's not on the album. It's going to distract from the single we're releasing from the album. And then I don't think it was going to be okay. And it worked out just fine. But at the time, the only place you could find Crazy for You was on the Vision Quest soundtrack. So basically you had this album right here, Like a Virgin. And the backside is some fun eye candy that I still really enjoy. And then you could go over to Vision Quest, and you could grab Crazy for You off of this soundtrack.
Let's see. And Vision Quest was 85.
Okay, 85. But you would mention that, it was 84. I remember I had a girlfriend in junior high school, and we went to the mall, and it was around Christmas time, and she bought the Madonna's Like a Virgin cassette for her sister. That was the Christmas gift that she bought her. Boy. A lot of tunes on that album, though. Material Girl, they called her that for years.
Yep.
The Material Girl. She's what else was on there that I didn't mention.
Oh, I bounced off that page already.
That's okay. It doesn't matter. A lot of good songs on that album, though.
We're going to be
personal favorites. Like a Virgin, you play it once in a while. And there was a re-release of that album in 1985, and it included the single that was a single, Causing a Commotion.
Oh, I did not know that. I didn't know they came out re-released.
Oh no, I apologize. That is not what it was. It was Into the Groove. That was a single it included. because the only place you can find it really is on like Immaculate Collection, and yeah, I mean at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So they did a re-release of the album and included the track, yeah, Into the Groove, which was on the Desperately Seeking Susan movie, which is another project she was doing.
Which was later in 2000, or excuse
And
me,
there was a soundtrack for that too. So there was more Madonna stuff than just the albums.
Yeah, she had her the films she was involved with. There's about 25 over the years from 79 to 2006.
Well, I wouldn't pay me much attention to anything 79. I'd start with Desperately Seeking Susan and go from there. And Shanghai Surprise, I don't know if she even had a track in there, but she did in Who's That Girl, which came a little later after the True Blue album. She switched producers. I forget their names, but they were the same guys that produced her for the next couple albums.
Yeah.
And that wasn't a bad album.
The True Blue album?
Yeah.
Was Stephen Bray and Patrick Leonard.
Yeah, and they also did Like a Prayer. They produced that album too. So she went a little more mature. The True Blue album was a love letter to her then new husband, Sean Penn. So the songs were a lot more AC radio friendly.
Yep.
And she had things like orchestrations in there, and it wasn't the sleazy kind of thing that she did on her first two albums. So, not that it was bad, it was just a lot more tame than what she had on her first two albums. Notable ones off of that one, boy, La Isla Bonita, I love that song. Open Your Hearts, Papa Don't Preach, True Blue was a hit.
Yep.
Good album. Really nice album. That album was different than what she had done before.
Very much so. Yeah. As you say though, it was really more of that mom radio type songs that were really,
which is kind of where I thought she was going to hang, which would have been I think a really good move for her. But she didn't. So and it was cool. We had a couple great new tracks from her, but I think she tried to go back to that a little bit in the 90s, and then I don't know, but that's another story, I think. But the other thing that came out around the same time was the Who's That Girl soundtrack. She only had 2 or 3 tracks on that one. The tracks were Who's That Girl, which is a great track, and the other one was Causing a Commotion. That was on
yep, there we go. I was gonna say, I thought there was another song on that soundtrack I couldn't remember what it was right offhand.
No, that was the big one. The other song, kind of a throwaway tune, I believe, and there were other songs by other artists on that album. But so again, is it really 13 albums? Not really. There's other stuff out there. Anywho,
continuing.
I had my visual here for Who's That Girl. I was playing it earlier for John before. Oh, here it is. And my visual thing. There she is. That's a single.
Very cool.
Fast. So, sorry.
I pitched it up a little bit.
Yeah, and here's True Blue. We got that too. So visuals for you.
Yay! Nice. Continuing on, next we had in 1989, so there's a 3-year hiatus between True Blue and Like a Prayer being released. 89, Like a Prayer comes out, and it has a different feel.
Very different feel. Same producers, though. So the feel is more in the attitude than anything else.
Actually, the Prince has some influence on this particular album, doesn't he?
One track.
Okay.
To my knowledge, and it's called This Is Not a Love Song. It wasn't a hit, but he sings on it with her, and it's on the album. But it's the only collaboration I'm aware of between the two of them. So he is listed as having a production credit on there. He wrote the song, he arranged it, whatever, but just that one tune.
Gotcha.
He was doing his own thing. He was doing the whole Bad Dance thing at the time.
Yeah, that's right.
That Batman soundtrack was 89, and he was
huge, and that was huge with that.
Yeah. So that was a big album. Like a Prayer was an event. It was the first video event I can think of where a video came out and it was like primetime television and everyone watched. And it was hyped up. And people got angry because there was a lot of symbolism in there.
Yep. That was symbolizing her Catholic upbringing.
Right. And she's into that. I mean, that's her thing. She's very religious, I guess, in that regard. Prince was the same way. He was kind of a similar guy, and then I think that's why they got along. They were into the sexuality thing, but they were also into their faith, and to them it was all kind of the same ride. It's like there's nothing wrong with sexuality. That's who you are, and that's human nature. And but faith is important too. So it's kind of the same vibe for them.
Sure.
Both of them were that way for a long time. So, but yeah, a lot of tunes off of that album.
Very awesome.
That was just one of them. There was also Express Yourself. That was really big on our dance floors.
Yep.
For a while. That was the tune off the album, I believe, that got the most dance floor exposure. Cherish is on there. There are several good tunes on the album. Really, really good ones.
Yep, some good stuff there. Let's jump ahead. We're gonna run out of time here, and I don't want to go too terribly past our half hour here because we've got the second video that's going to go. Right. Let's talk a little bit about Erotica. And which came out in '92, which was a complete left turn, really, for her in many ways.
Sure. Well, Shep Pettibone if you don't know who Shep Pettibone is, he's a DJ producer, but he's primarily a remixer. One thing he did do, he wrote and produced and arranged, was Vogue. That's his song. But he don't, like like I got, a lot of these, 12-inch singles here from Madonna. I'll just show you. Yeah. I got a lot of them, and a lot of the singles, he was the guy who remixed them. Not all of them, but a lot of them. But he did the entire Erotica album. Oops, sorry, that was his album. He produced the whole thing, so that's why it sounds so different. Stuff.
And with Erotica, really, there wasn't. I don't know as far as charts. I don't know. Did much of anything chart from that?
It was her, well, for a long time, that was her worst selling album.
Yeah.
But it was released simultaneously with the Sex Book, which was this coffee table, stainless steel cover spiral notebook thing with dirty pictures of her and Vanilla Ice in it. It was really bizarre.
And it sold like, what, 1 million copies like that at $50 a pop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's be, here we are. We're the Christian nation in the U.S. and we're going to be offended by the book. And oh, by the way, we're going to buy 1 million copies within hours.
Right. Yeah. Well, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, I guess. I don't own a copy of that, and I'm a little ashamed of that. I think I'm going to seek one out because I never owned a copy of that.
Yeah. I hadn't either. I actually hadn't seen one live. I saw one, on a video somebody had talking about it, but.
Yeah, well, it's just kind of a cool thing to have. It's beautifully packaged. It's a cool book. But anyway, yeah, that was released at the same time that the Erotic album was released. Deeper and Deeper was the track on there that I really enjoyed.
Yep, that was closest to a hit that we could use. But there really wasn't a ton.
But if we back up a little bit, Vogue was on the Dick Tracy soundtrack.
There we go. I was looking. It's like, where Vogue was around this time. Where is it?
Vogue was on the Dick Tracy soundtrack 2 years earlier. 3 years earlier.
1990.
What did Erotica come out?
Erotica came out in 92. Dick Tracy 1990. So 2 years earlier. You're right on.
2 years earlier. Yeah, because Vogue was huge. And so that was on the Dick Tracy soundtrack. Again, more than just the 13 Madonna albums. You had a couple other tunes on there too. Hanky Panky and something else I can't remember. There were several. One that was a couple even singles off of there. But that's a tune that you can still play as a mobile DJ. You can still play Vogue. You can play whatever version of it you want. There are a couple of different versions out there. There's the single version, which is really good and short. There's the version off of the album, the Dick Tracy soundtrack. And the other version that you hear a lot is off her greatest hits collection, and it's called the Immaculate Collection, which Shep Pettibone, who produced Erotica, went through her back catalog and remixed everything. And I remember buying the CD. I remember actually, this is back in the day where I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm going to get up early or not go to bed on Mondays so I could be there first thing Tuesday morning to buy this. And I did. I was so excited about buying it. And I was pissed because this dude that went with me, he wanted to go buy something else that I don't care about. And afterwards, like, well, dude, I got this job interview. So I had to go sit in this parking lot for an hour and wait for him before I could go home and rock out to my Madonna disc that I had stayed up all night for.
Mm-hmm.
But and it included 2 new singles, one of which was "Rescue Me," and the other one was my last like Madonna song that I just love, "Justify My Love."
Mm-hmm.
That's an interesting one. "Justify My Love" is a poem by Ingrid Chavez. The drum loop is from a Public Enemy track, but the arrangement, putting those things together, and he also has vocals featured on the track, is Lenny Kravitz. That was his gift to her. And if you know the tune, there's someone in the background doing kind of this
Mm-hmm.
It's Lenny.
Oh, be darned.
That's Lenny's voice.
I did not know that.
And that whole session is responsible for him and Lisa Bonet splitting up because there were some accusations, we'll just say. So
well,
more trivia for you there.
Yeah. Oh.
But you can totally get away with Vogue. You can totally get away with Holiday. Those are the big ones.
Yeah.
And sometimes you can do Like a Prayer. I have girls who want it sometimes.
Yep.
I do Like a Prayer. I do the version on Immaculate Collection. It's long. It's real long. It's got this intro that's just where she goes, God, and then it goes, ah. I do the whole thing, and the girls act it out, and they love it. So, still very relevant. Very relevant.
And I'm just looking from that point on, she changes her style changes and a lot. Her music changes. You don't see the chart, the hits hitting the charts virtually at all anymore.
Music did very well. The album Music that came out in 2000 did incredibly well.
Mm-hmm.
But what's interesting about Madonna, it's kind of the same thing with Prince. What happened with him, not Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's a different story. But they kind of went underground a little bit. In Prince's case, it was more of a musician's thing. It was more people who were into jam bands and musicians and jazz and things. In Madonna's case, it was the gay community who were always behind her 100%. But they always support her. Madonna, her last album, whatever that festering turd was called, I don't remember, but it doesn't matter because her concert sold out. You know, she could do 3 dates in a stadium. It's going to sell out because, you know, there's a community out there.
Sure.
That's going to come to the show in droves.
Yeah.
So even if it's a bad album, she's going to have, she's going to get people turning out for it.
Yeah. Interesting.
She puts on very long shows too. I mean, very long.
I've heard that. I've heard that.
2.5 hour long shows. Tons of costume changes. And she doesn't really, I mean, she can play guitar and things. She can play drums. She can play things, but she's not like a performing musician. Every once in a while she'll pull out an instrument. But her thing is visualizations and costume changes and dancers. And it's kind of always been her thing.
Cool.
Something that you probably could throw in there too is there was that whole Truth or Dare phenomenon for a while. I don't know if you remember that. The movie that came out was a documentary of her. It was released in theaters. That was between Justify My Love and Erotica.
Yeah, Truth or Dare was
91.
Yeah.
I'm so good.
Yeah, you are. You've got your dates down. Well, gang, we're going to wrap this section up with Madonna. We kind of went through her big albums and the songs that would be something that we as mobile DJs would know, would need to play, would have to have in our repertoire. Yeah. We're going to be going into our second session next, so there's a link in the description of this video. You can go down there, click on that, and that'll take you there. We're going to shut this stream off. We're going to start a new stream here in about 2 or 3 minutes. So, gang, we'll see you in just a few minutes.